All right. Good evening, everyone. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome Pastor Jerry Dockery from Crabapple First Baptist Church in Milton, Georgia, to lead us in an invocation.
Let's pray. Father, we're thankful for this day and for all of your blessings and for the opportunity we have to congregate here and to engage in community business. We pray for your wisdom and direction upon our representatives. We ask that you would guide them and that, Lord, you would keep before them the supreme interests of this community in every fashion and form. We pray for those that serve us in so many ways here at the city, especially for those that serve us as first responders. We commit them to your care, pray your protection upon them, and that you would continue to bless this community and all that it endeavors to do. For it's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Okay, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Milton City Council for Monday, June 4th, 2018 to order. Sudi, if you would please call roll and make general announcements. And I believe, do we have Councilmember Morick on the phone?
We do.
Okay.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be happy to call roll for the June 4th, 2018 regular meeting. I would like to remind those in attendance to please silence all cell phones at this time. Those attending the meeting who would like to provide public comment, you are required to complete a public comment card prior to speaking on the item. Those called to speak will be taken in the order that the speaker cards are received by the city clerk prior to the beginning of tonight's meeting. All speakers will identify themselves by name, address, and organization if applicable. The City Council may allow public comment on either an agenda item or general public comment from a representative of an organized group or association, provided the individual has filed a notarized affidavit with the city clerk that they have the authority to speak on behalf of that organization prior to the agenda item being called. Demonstration of any sort within the chamber is prohibited, so please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, outbursts, or dialogue with any person speaking. Anyone in violation will be asked to leave. As I call roll this evening, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Joe Lockwood.
Here.
Councilmember Peyton Jamison.
Here.
Councilmember Matt Kuntz.
Here.
Councilmember Laura Bentley. Here. Councilmember Rick Morick.
Here.
And Councilmember Rick Morick is calling in this evening from Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. And for the record, Councilmember Joe Longoria is absent. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, I want to welcome everybody here tonight. We appreciate you being here. And Sudi, if you will please sound the next item.
Our next item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting agenda, agenda item number 18-166.
Okay, do I have a motion for approval of the agenda, or is there any changes that staff or council would like to make?
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as before us.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion for approval from Councilmember Kuntz, second by Councilmember Bentley for approval of the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous, including Councilmember Morick. Okay, the next item is public comment this evening. And public comment is a time for citizens to share information with the mayor and city council and to provide input and opinions on any matter that is not scheduled for its own public hearing during today's meeting. Each citizen who chooses to participate in public comment must complete a comment card and submit it to the city clerk. Please remember, this is not a time to engage the mayor or members of city council in conversation. And when your name is called, please step forward and come forward and speak into the microphone, stating your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes for remarks. So do we have any public comment?
Yes, sir, we have 3.
If you would please call the first speaker.
First speaker is Mr. Tim Becker.
Tim Becker, 15625 Canterbury Chase. I apologize, my voice is a little trashed. As some of you might know, over the last 11 weeks, I've been consumed with caring for my sister who has had a number of post-operative complications. I'm here tonight because I am not sure I can be present on June 18th for the hearing on the proposal for a music venue at Birmingham Crossroads. And I wanted to provide my comments to you on this important issue. I live only 1.5 miles from the Crossroads. I pass through the Crossroads nearly every day. I attended the CZIM and the Planning Commission meeting on this matter. And I have spoken with the applicant for over 2 hours on this issue and exchanged a number of emails with him. I am strongly opposed to the granting of a use permit and 9 concurrent variances that are being sought. Originally, I was actually a strong supporter of the proposal. I believe that there might be a clear and compelling public good that might allow council to circumvent the need to find hardship. However, as I dug into the details and I spoke with dozens of citizens, I gradually came to the realization that creation of this music venue would be harmful to the community. First, it is important to realize that this proposal is not about saving Matildas, which is an admirable institution that should be preserved. Being against Matildas is like being against oxygen. However, the important issue is not saving Matildas, but whether a music venue should be located at the Crossroads. The important issue is whether the granting of certain variances will create dangerous legal precedents that will do long-run harm to the city. The important issue is whether there is a strong and broad support from the folks that live nearby in Milton. The blinding insight that I eventually had with regards to this music venue is that the size, shape, and features of the property are not suitable for a music venue. And that is why 9 variances are required. Some of the variances are nonsense or else not worth disputing. However, there are 4 variances that are essential to protecting the community. Once again, this is an issue of rule of law. Granting these variances would set a dangerous legal precedent. The most dangerous of these is the noise variance. The proposed facility dramatically failed loudness test. The standard at the property line is 60 decibels, the loudness of a normal conversation. The measurement was 75 decibels, the loudness of my electric leaf blower at a distance of 6 feet. 15 decibels is a big difference because the scale is logarithmic. So 75 decibels is nearly 2.5 times as loud as 60 decibels. Interestingly, staff has recommended an 85 decibel standard, which is more than 4 times the loudness of the legal 60 decibel standard for festivals. 80 decibels is really loud, equivalent to a train moving at 45 miles an hour if you were standing 100 feet away. No one should have to endure such noise at their property line. I would also point out that variances are generally for minor discrepancies. An increase in loudness of 4 times is not minor. It is like increasing the speed limit from 50 miles per hour to 200 miles per hour. And there is no hardship involved. None whatsoever. And in fact, 2 special event facilities are currently held to 60 to 65 decibel standards. By the way, the reported readings are suspect as both continuous and peak sound were reported at 75 decibels. This is an impossibility. The peak decibel should be significantly higher for music, which varies a lot in loudness. Another dangerous variance is the reduction or elimination of buffers and setbacks required as part of the rural Milton overlay. In this case, the applicant is requesting reduction of the western buffer and elimination of the buffers and setbacks everywhere else. This includes the northern boundary, which is far from the music venue and separated from it by a power line. And importantly, this buffer abuts Birmingham Park. And on the topic of Birmingham Park,
5 minutes has elapsed.
Can I go on, or am I?
I'd like to hold with the 5 minutes unless the council, maybe we have the other speakers and then allow you to continue if there's time left. Is the council okay with that?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Next speaker is Mr. Vincent Taylor.
Vincent Taylor, 15670 Canterbury Chase in Milton. I was also, like Tim, in favour of this music venue to start with, but it seems too many variances are being asked for to make it happen. I'm especially opposed to the noise level and the sunset clause being eliminated. I don't think anything should be allowed to go on ad infinitum. If the community wants it after it's been there 3 years, then it will get a continuance of the variance. But if you allow it to go on without any check, I think that's very dangerous. The noise level, industrially, anything over 85 dB, you have to have hearing protection. So at the boundary, you really need hearing protection, and I think that is ridiculous. But that's all I have to say. I'll let Tim have the rest of my time.
Thank you. Please call the next speaker, Sudi.
Next speaker is Mr. Robin Frickton.
Good evening. I'm Robin Frickton, live at 2970 Francis Road, Milton, and I'm in very much in favor of this of Matilda coming in. I know there's variances and some disagreements, but I mean it's not like it's every night, and it's not like it's rock and roll or anything like that. It should be for us. I think it'll fit in Milton quite well. And I'm hoping we can just work out the variances. I understand this about the 3-year renewal, and if I was an investor, I'd be kind of wondering whether I want to put my money into something where I may not be able to recoup my money if I have to look at it every 3 years to see if the city's okay with it. So, but I'm a big support of it. I think it'll be great up there. I don't think the noise is going to be that bad of an issue, but I'm just hoping that we can work it out with everybody. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And again, just FYI, we had our first speaker went up to his 5 minutes, which we allowed, and then told him he could speak again if there was time left from the other speakers. So the council agreed. So if Mr. Becker would like to finish his.
And there's 3 minutes and 58 seconds on the left clock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And on the topic of Birmingham Park, this sort of venue is completely incongruent with a passive park. If we approve this music venue, we might as well convert Birmingham Park to an active park. Game over. Let's pave over paradise and put up a parking lot. Staff's hardship analysis only addresses the reduction of the western buffer and says 0 about the elimination of the other buffers. 0. There is no hardship rationale whatsoever. A third important variance is reduction of the activity setback from 100 feet to 60 feet. Staff's analysis, again, is incomplete. It only addresses the performance area as requiring this variance, but it extends the variance along the entire border of the neighboring western property. The truth is that the reduction in the setback in the pasture just beyond Hickory Flat Road has been provided to allow the applicant to park more cars in the pasture. However, this is never mentioned, so obviously no hardship, again, is proven for this area. I want to cover a different topic, and that is citizen support for this proposal. I think all would agree that the proposed music venue is complex and a big change for the Crossroads. My sense is that the bar must be set very high for approval. That is, a vast majority of nearby residents should embrace this proposal. And I just don't see that. In fact, I see just the opposite. I understand that a few of you might be inclined to approve this proposal. If so, I remind you that currently Matilda's puts on 20 concerts per year to an audience of 100 to 200 patrons and has a 6-month season. Those should be the standards for a venue in Milton, wherever it might be located. And staff's recommendations largely reflected these parameters. However, the Planning Commission recommended loosening many of these conditions, sometimes without the applicant even requesting the concessions. This was shocking to the citizens that watched. Rather than adding to and strengthening conditions, as the Planning Commission normally does, the chairman guided the commission to gut many conditions. The result is up to 48 concerts, a season that is 2 months longer, and a 50% increase in the attendance cap. And worst of all, the Planning Commission recommended eliminating the 3-year renewal period that was recommended by staff to ensure recourse to citizens in the event of a negative impact to the community. Even the applicant indicated he would accept a renewal period. And I might add that the Planning Commission unanimously recommended such a renewal period for Jeff Runner's special event facility in 2014. Lastly, I want to address the topic of serious and multiple procedural issues. Some have been made formally known to the city, others have not. First, a closed meeting on this matter was conducted, violating Georgia's open meetings law. This is a serious matter. And at this meeting, participants were directed not to ask questions in the open meeting that followed. This constitutes interference in the operations of a judicial committee. Also a serious matter. There are also serious conflicts of interest in the processing of this matter that will come to light in due time. And lastly, there has been tampering with the normal process for adjudicating these matters, which I will take up privately with
Your
the city.
time has elapsed.
Thank you for considering my perspectives.
Thank you. Do we have any more public comment, City?
That's all, sir.
Okay, our public comment is closed. All right, if we can move on to the consent agenda. City, if you'll please sound the items.
First item is approval of the April 23rd, 2018 regular City Council meeting minutes. Agenda item number 18167. Approval of the May 7th, 2018 regular City Council meeting minutes. Agenda item number 18168. Next, approval of a Parks and Recreation Department facility use agreement between the City of Milton and Davis Educational Services, LLC. Agenda item number 18169. Fourth, approval of a pre-construction services agreement between the City of Milton and New South Construction Company, LLC, to provide pre-construction services for the proposed court, police, and fire facilities on State Highway 9. Agenda item number 18170. Our fifth item is approval of a construction services agreement between the City of Milton and CMES, Inc. for intersection improvements. Agenda item number 18171. Next, approval of easement agreements for drainage areas with the West Birmingham Road Bridge Replacement Project. Agenda item number 18172. Our seventh consent agenda item is approval of a contract with Slavin Management Consultants to conduct an executive search for the position of Community Development Director. Agenda item number 18173. Next, approval of a task order to provide pre-construction support for the Northeast Crabapple Connector Project. Agenda item number 18174. Our ninth consent agenda item is approval of a task order to provide construction inspection for Freemanville Road at Providence Road intersection improvements. Agenda item number 18175. Next, approval of a task order to provide construction inspection for Morris Road at Webb Road intersection improvements. Agenda item number 18176. Our 11th item is approval of a professional services agreement between the City of Milton and InterDev LLC to provide interim CIO and project management support. Agenda item number 18177. Our 12th and final consent agenda item this evening is approval of the following two subdivision plats. Armstrong Garden Centers, Land Lot 898, 3155 Bethany Bend. Minor plat, 3 lots, 5.24 total acres, 0.57 lots per acre. And William A. Workhauser, Land Lot 1072, Ebenezer and Sweet Apple Road, minor plat, 3 lots, 9.30 total acres, 0.32 lots per acre. This is agenda item number 18178.
Okay, before I ask for a motion on this, when I've discussed this with the city attorney, I'd like to ask that we split. I'd like to recuse myself from item number 12, number 1, as that's a client of my company's. So if I can ask for a motion from item 1 through 11, and then split item number 12, and then we'll hear the item number 1 of item number 12 separate. Is that all right, Ken?
That's right. So there'll need to be a motion and second to do the split as the mayor just recommended.
Did you want to, item number 1?
Do we just approve item 1
I think
through 11?
you need a motion that we split it first, correct?
Correct.
To allow us to split it?
Right. So to segregate the consent agenda, you'll need to segregate item 12.1 from the remainder of the consent agenda. That's the first thing.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to separate item 12.1 from the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Bentley, a second from Councilmember Kuntz to, as read into the record, to split item number 12, number 1, into and hear it as a separate item. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, I abstain from voting on that.
See, we need to make a motion.
So now we need a motion on the consent agenda.
Yeah, so we'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda item with item 12.1 split.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with except for item number 12 and number 1 in part 12. I have a motion by Councilmember Kuntz and a second by Councilmember Jameson, correct? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, that passes unanimous. So now we bring up, do I have a motion for item number 12, it would be item number 4, number 1.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 12.1.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion for approval, for item number 12.1 from Councilmember Jameson with a second from Councilmember Bentley. And I'm going to recuse myself. So all in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, that's 4 in approval, Sudi. Okay, we'll move on to reports and presentations. Sudi, if you'll please call the first item.
This item is a presentation of the City of Milton fiscal year 2017 annual audit. Ms. Bernadette Harville.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Each year, the city's financials are audited by an external CPAs, and I'd like to introduce you to Justin Davis, who's a member of Malden and Jenkins' team, who performed the audit for the FY17 financials this year, and he'll be giving you a quick overview, also known as the auditor's discussion and analysis.
Good evening. Let's see. I'm just going to go real quick through the auditor's discussion and analysis. My name is Justin Davis, Malden Jenkins. We were the external auditors for the City of Milton's 2017 audit. I believe you all have a copy of this AD&A as well. I'll just start with on page 2, general information about Malden Jenkins. So we have offices located all across the Southeast. We're out of the Atlanta office. Our governmental practice is our largest specific industry niche within the firm, and we represent about 25% of our firms. We serve approximately 400 other governments in the Southeast. As you can see, we do over 100 cities. The engagement team leaders, Adam Fraley was the engagement partner, Tim Lyons was the engagement director, and then I was the engagement supervisor. A little bit about our independent auditors report. This report basically says that management's responsibility are the financial statements. The auditor's responsibility is to express an opinion on the financial statements. We did issue an unmodified opinion, which in layman's terms means a clean opinion. Part of the financial report is the GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. We include the 2016 certificate in the 2017 audit. And the city is one of just a few municipalities who actually go above and beyond to get the certificate. So that is something that the city can be proud of related to financial reporting. Next, I'm going to jump into a little bit of the numbers. Just go over the government-wide financial statements. So this is the government as a whole and not just each specific fund. As you can see, there are approximately $129 million in assets, which are offset by about $43 million in liabilities, which leaves about $86 million of net position or equity. Of that $86 million, $69 million is invested in capital assets, $4 million is restricted, and then that leaves about $13 million that's unrestricted. And on the next page, you'll see that in 2017, the city had an increase in net position of approximately $10 million, so a pretty good year for the city. The next few pages are just a breakdown of the general fund. It shows, a breakdown of the general fund revenues, breakdown of the expenditures in the general fund, and then on the following page, you'll see net change in fund balance from year to year. The next section is basically like a guide to the CAFR. If you open up the CAFR and it's kind of overwhelming, you can flip to this page, and this is a breakdown of all the different footnotes. For instance, if you wanted to know more about the city's long-term debt, you could come here and see, note 7, that's long-term debt. It's going to provide more information related to the city's debt. Some of our required communications. The auditor's responsibility is to make sure that the financial statements are free of material misstatement. That's what our audit does. Anything that we see that's material, we'll recommend an adjustment. We also do tests of controls and compliance. We don't give an opinion on controls and compliance, but we do give negative assurance that there was no non-compliance. We'd also like to note that there were no significant difficulties with management. There were no disagreements with management. We've always worked well together. We appreciate their transparency. We appreciate all their help in making our audit go efficient and giving us anything we ask for. It's given to us immediately. We did have a few adjustments, which those are all in the back of this document. None of them were material. And most of them were provided by management after the audit began. A few of our accounting recommendations. Let me note first that there were no findings, there were no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies. We just had 2 management points. First management point was collateralization of deposits. There were approximately $6,500 at East West Bank that were not properly collateralized. This is not really the city's fault. This is more of the bank didn't have the proper collateralization based on the amount of the city's deposits. We just recommend that the city monitor these deposits and with the bank to make sure that they're properly collateralized going forward. And we recommend that on a monthly basis. The second management point was monitoring debt service payments. During the audit, we noticed one interest payment on the debt service was not made. The reason was because the city never received an invoice, so therefore no payment was ever made. But there is an amortization schedule, so we just recommend that the city monitor these payments and make sure that they're continuing to pay on time. And let me also note that there were no penalties as a result of that missed payment. The payment was made and all was well. Just something to look out for in the future. A few of the new governmental accounting standard boards pronouncements. They've come out and they are continuing to come out with a lot of these. The main one that we like to make our clients aware of is related to leases. They're essentially doing away with operating leases, and everything's going to be geared more toward capital lease. We still got a couple more years before they iron out all the details related to leases, but just something to have on the radar going forward. And we do lots of CPE classes, and that's going to be one of our main topics going forward. If you are interested in the CPE classes, you can contact Paige Verco. She's in charge of getting everybody set up with CPE and attending our events. But also the engagement part, Adam Fraley, you're welcome to contact him as well, and he can get you set up with that. That's all I've got right now. If y'all have any questions, I'm happy to answer anything that y'all have.
So any questions? Laura?
I have a question, not necessarily for you, but just the suggestions that were made, are these from staff? Are they pretty easily implementable?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll be taking those recommendations forward.
We will.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe those have already been made.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for having me.
Also recognize our staff. Good job.
It was all Bernadette this year.
Bernadette, and everybody else that helped you. Thank you. Okay, our next item is first presentation. Sudi, if you'll please sound the items.
First item is consideration of U18-07, VC 18-06, 850 and 875 Hickory Flat Road, zoned AG1 and C1 by Curtis Mills, to request a use permit for an outdoor music festival for a periodic concert, section 64-1812, on 6.48 acres and a 9-part concurrent variance to the following zoning ordinance requirements. First, 64-1812B2, to delete the opaque fence and replace with a 4-board equestrian fence with a 10-foot landscape strip as approved by the city arborist. 2, 64-1812B4, to reduce the activity zone setback from 100 feet to 25 feet adjacent to the following property lines: west 421.59 feet and north 201.7 feet. Third, 64-1812B5, to allow the facility to exceed the maximum sound requirements. Fourth, 64-1812B6, to eliminate the 3-year renewal period. Fifth, 64-1142A3B, to reduce the 75-foot undisturbed buffer and 10-foot improvement setback to a 10-foot landscape strip adjacent to the west property line, 421.59 feet, and north property line, 201.71 feet, and delete for remaining property lines. Sixth, 64-1317F, to delete the required landscape islands for the parking lot. Seventh, 64-1346B, to increase the rural section building maximum setback from 20 feet to 430 feet. Eighth, 64-1323A, parking lot to be located in front of a building. Ninth, 64-1323C, to allow the parking lot to be in one large area. This is agenda item number 18179. Our next first presentation item is consideration of RZ 18-10 to amend section 64-1 definitions. Agenda item number 18-180. Our third and final consent agenda item, consideration of RZ 18-11 to amend Article 17, Development Regulations, Section 64-2395, Section 64-2397, and Section 64-2398. Agenda item number 18-181.
Okay. We'll ask for a motion on the first presentation, reading of the first presentation items.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion on the first read of these items.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Motion by Councilmember Bentley, second by Councilmember Kuntz. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, we'll move on to our public hearing. Sudi, if you'll please sound that item.
This is a public hearing on an alcohol beverage license application in consideration of the issuance of an alcohol beverage license for package retail to Crabberry LLC, doing business as Crabapple Market, 12690 Crabapple Road, Milton, Georgia, 30004. Agenda item number 18-182, Ms. Bernadette Harville.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This applicant is applying for a package retail license for wine and malt beverage. They are in compliance with all current regulations, and staff recommends approval.
Okay, are there any questions? All right. Okay, I'll open up for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve agenda item number 18-182.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Kuntz with a second from Councilmember Jameson. All in favor, please say aye.
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 That's unanimous, Sudi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bernadette. Okay, we have no items on our zoning agenda, and we'll move on to unfinished business. Sudi, if you'll please sound the first items.
First item is consideration of an ordinance of the City of Milton, Georgia, to amend Chapter 4, Alcoholic Beverages, Sections 4-52 and 4-533 of the Code of the City of Milton, Georgia. Agenda item number 18-160. First presentation was at the May 21st, 2018 City Council meeting. Ms. Sarah Ladart.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The first one on here is to make a couple changes to Section 452, which is the advertising fee that we charge. A couple months ago, I noticed on Sandy Springs' agenda that this is something that the county used to require, they no longer do. So it's a $298 fee that any business who's applying for any sort of alcohol license is required to pay to advertise both in the newspaper and that big sign you see out in front when they're to announce it. It's no longer required. So especially for our alcohol licenses like the limited tap and the, what are the words? Incidental and all of those that are a lower cost, when you add an additional $298, it goes from a $100 fee to a $398 fee. Since it's not required, and this $298 fee is mainly a pass-through where the city makes a minimal amount of money, depending on how much the ad costs, we recommend that that is just removed to remove that barrier. And then Section 4-533 is when we reviewed the maps for and made more of Milton open container, specifically Birmingham Crossroads. We included the maps that you guys approved, but the actual wording in the ordinance didn't include C1 and mixed use. And so we're just making the words in the ordinance match the maps that you guys already approved. That's all we're changing in that.
Okay. Any questions for Sarah on that? Okay, I'll open up for a motion.
Yes.
More quick question, Sarah. We're basically on the first one, we're just bringing us back in line with what state law already is, right? Okay. So I guess Mayor will make a motion on agenda item number. We'll approve agenda item number 18-160.
Second.
Do I have a motion for approval from Councilmember Kuntz? Second. Councilmember Bentley. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, that passes unanimous. Thank you, Sarah.
Welcome.
Okay, Sudi, if you'd please sound the next unfinished business item.
This item is consideration of an ordinance to amend Appendix A, fees and other charges related to Chapter 4, alcoholic beverages of the Code of the City of Milton, Georgia. Agenda item number 18-161. First presentation was at the May 21st, 2018 regular City Council meeting. Ms. Sarah Ladart.
This is just to change the Appendix A that shows that $298, or actually I think it just shows the $200 fee in the appendix, just removing that to match what you guys just voted to approve.
Questions?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item 18-161.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion for approval from Councilmember Bentley, second from Councilmember Kuntz. All in favor, please say aye.
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 That's unanimous, Sudi.
Thank you.
Okay, Sudi, if you'd please call the next unfinished business item.
Mr. Mayor, before we do that, I'd like to bring a point of order to the council's attention. So if you will hear me out on this real quick, and then we'll decide if you want to do anything or not about it.
Okay.
Councilmember Bentley, I want to just mention this for you because this was my fault, I think. So on the first presentation was the number one was this consideration of this music venue issue. And I think you made the motion to approve this. Are you anticipating taking action later or making an announcement later with respect to that item?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Then what I think I would recommend, Mr. Mayor, is with respect to that, I think a motion for reconsideration of the first presentation would be in order. Everyone can vote on that. And then I think with respect to the actual motion to approve first presentation, if you intend to recuse later, you might want to recuse from that vote because it's on there on the first presentation. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So that was my fault. I should have caught that and mentioned that to you. So I would recommend, Mr. Mayor, a motion for reconsideration that all the council can in fact vote on.
Okay, so what we would open up for a motion to reconsider that item.
Reconsider the first presentation vote.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we reconsider the first presentation items.
Second.
You can vote on this.
I can.
Okay.
You can, yes.
I have a motion to reconsider it from Councilmember Kuntz with a second from Councilmember Jameson. So all in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, that passes unanimous.
Okay, at this
So
point,
now we would go back
the
to
first
the-
presentation has not been voted on now. The decks have sort of been cleared on this, and Councilmember Bentley, I may be jumping ahead, but I think now might be the appropriate
problem.
time.
I appreciate your guidance. I've been working closely with Mr. Gerard. As noted on tonight's agenda, under first presentation, there's the special use permit for the outdoor music festival. Mr. Mills was involved in my recent campaign at a strategic level and also financially. And while neither of these things are legally disqualifying events, my concern is that in totality, there may be the appearance of impropriety, and that is stated in the Milton Ethics Code. And so therefore, with an abundance of caution and to avoid any appearance of impropriety, I have chosen to recuse myself from participating in that vote.
Okay, so at this point, we would vote on.
Motion
First-
second, first presentation
Motion
of
second.
Councilmember Bentley
Do
to
we
be
need
recused.
to have Sudi reread first presentation items?
No, no.
Okay, so I will ask for a motion and a second on the first presentation item.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the first presentation items as read.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion for the first presentation items from Councilmember Kuntz with a second from Councilmember Jameson. All in favor, please say aye.
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 And so that's
Four.
about four that said aye, and Councilmember Bentley abstained from that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and
Thank you.
forgive me for not picking that up the first time.
Okay. I believe we are on our third unfinished business item. Sudi, if you please read that.
This is consideration of an ordinance to revise the city's animal control ordinance to allow for the application and enforcement of the Fulton County rabies and animal control ordinances, to provide for the repeal of conflicting ordinances, to provide for an effective date, and for other lawful purposes. Agenda item number 18-162. First presentation was at the May 21st, 2018 City Council meeting. Mr. Ken Gerard.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you very much. This item pertains to the animal control ordinances that govern in the city of Milton. Interestingly, the city of Milton has its own animal control ordinance. However, we are in agreement with Fulton County for Fulton County to actually enforce their ordinance in the city of Milton city limits, which is perfectly fine, perfectly legitimate. However, not unexpectedly, Fulton County wants to enforce Fulton County's ordinance in the city of Milton, as opposed to having to learn all the various cities' ordinances. When they provide this service, they want to simply enforce the ordinance they know. One way to do this, in addition to the intergovernmental agreement, is, of course, the city of Milton has to adopt then Fulton County's animal control ordinance. Fulton County can't adopt an ordinance for us. We have to adopt it ourselves. Members of the council, I can tell you that this is not terribly unusual, and to the extent that we ever provide our own animal control enforcement services, getting rid of Fulton County's ordinance is very simple. But for the time being, in the interest of being able to fulfill their obligations under that intergovernmental agreement, we do need to adopt their ordinance. And that's my recommendation to the council this evening.
Is there any questions on that, council? Okay, I'll open up. Matt?
The only thing I would like to say, I wouldn't mind having just some kind of animal control is kind of an interesting deal, and would like to hear the discrepancies about, how Fulton County manages that, if we were to do it on our own, how that would look, that sort of thing. I just don't know the answers to that.
Right.
So obviously, if we get rid of our code and just use Fulton County's, then they're going to do their services that. What's the quality of the
That's a
service
great
they do?
question.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
go ahead, please. I just want to don't interrupt you, but I did want to say, because you said something that piqued my interest, getting rid of our code. That's interesting. We're not getting rid of our code. What we're doing is we're adopting Fulton County's, and to the extent they differ,
Right.
Fulton's controls. But when we want to get rid of Fulton's ordinance at some point in the future, should we wish to, it is simply going to be removing theirs. Ours sort of springs back to life at that point.
I think it'd be an interesting work session item just to see what that looks like at some point. That's all I'm saying. So,
All right. Any other questions? If not, I'll open up for motion in a second.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve agenda item number 18-162.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion for approval from Councilmember Kuntz, second from Councilmember Bentley. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That's unanimous. All right, Sudi, if you could please read the next item, number 4.
Next item is consideration of a resolution ordinance amending the charter for the city of Milton, Georgia. Agenda item number 18-163. This item was approved by council under new business at the May 21st, 2018 regular city council meeting. Mr. Ken Gerard.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, you have in front of you a resolution that will, upon adoption and upon delivery to the Secretary of State as well as to the Fulton County Superior Court Clerk, will effectuate a modification of the City of Milton's charter. This is a matter for which we had a very involved and detailed work session where we went over each and every element of what we are proposing to change within our charter. You may also remember this was the product of the Charter Commission. This was actually sent to the delegation and for whatever reason did not get adopted as local law. However, municipalities in Georgia have the same ability to adopt or modify their own charters as do counties. And so we are taking advantage of that process to, in fact, implement the very charter changes that the General Assembly, the delegation, didn't get done this session. That requires that we run legal ads containing what, in fact, we are attempting to do. And it's a very peculiar thing in Georgia law. You actually have to approve this resolution twice at 2 back-to-back regular meetings, which, of course, we did on the May 21st regular meeting of the City of Milton. You already did adopt this. You've approved it once. This is the second approval. And then once you do this, I will bundle all this up with the legal ads, send it to the Secretary of State, and then they, in fact, will publish it as part of the list of local law modifications that they published every year. And this will become part of our charter, which is sort of our baseline enabling legislation that creates the city. So it's my recommendation at this point that you, for the second time, adopt the resolution in your packet.
Okay, any questions? We've been over that. I'll open up for a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item 18-163.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Bentley for approval with a second from Councilmember Kuntz. All in favor, please say aye.
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 That passes unanimous, Sudi. Okay, Sudi, if you'll please call the next item.
Next item is consideration of the abandonment of golf course easements related to the Milton Country Club. Agenda item number 18183. Mr. Ken Gerard.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is a item related to the city's acquisition of the Milton Country Club. There should be a slide we're going to put on the screen. Voila, there it is. All right. So I want to mention to you what you're looking at. I hope everyone sees the graphic on the screen. Now, there are 3 primary areas of shaded area. There is a small, looks like a north and south. It's in a sort of a taupe shade, almost like a domino on the left. Then there is another area that it looks has that same taupe sort of area that encompasses some land lots. And then you see one that almost looks like a fish hook, sort of going around various other lots. Is everybody with me on those hashed marked areas? Even better. Thank you. All right, so what we're talking about today,
just to clarify, you've got the pointer, Carter, or somebody, who's got the pointer?
I think it's coming from the tech booth, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, yeah, and basically just use that pointer so everybody's
Okay,
clear
so
on
there is now a hand
taupe.
moving along.
Yeah.
All right,
No,
so if the person, the master controller of the hand, would go to the far left one. Okay, forget about this one. That's not what we're talking about. This is not the easement that is caught up into this. If you'll go to the second one, though. Yes, right there. Okay, that is an easement we're talking about. This is the sort of the proverbial ability of individuals using the old golf course to go try to field balls on people's property. And then if you go to the fish hook one as well. And yes, there is another one. So those 2 easements, sort of the middle one and the right one, is what we're talking about. When the city of Milton acquired this property, we picked up those 2 easements simply by way of the conveyance because the easements traveled with the property. We don't want them. We don't need them. And the appropriate thing to do is for those to blend in or be put back into the name of the what's called the servient tenement, which in this case is the property owner upon whom they rest, because they encumber those properties. They give an adjoining property owner, in this case, the right to effectively trespass, although it's not a trespass because there's an easement allowing it. So what my office was given the guidance to do was to legally dispose of those 2 easement interests. And when I say 2, I'm talking about as they appear on the graphic. There are obviously multiple easement interests because they encompass multiple lots. So there is a resolution that the city manager has put in front of you, which is a resolution that would authorize the disposal of those easements. We're doing that under the authority, and let me just say this, getting rid of property that's owned by the taxpayers or even interest of property that's owned by the taxpayers is meant to be, in Georgia law, a little challenging. For instance, the city just can't go and sell a piece of property because it wants to, because that's an asset of the city, and so we have to go through a formal bid process or some other ways to get rid of it. Easements is actually a little easier, and there's actually a statute that says that if there is a piece of property or an interest in property that is basically unusable for anything else, then the city can do a private conveyance or a private sale, and that's really what this is. We're just privately giving this back to the individuals upon whom it only makes sense. No one else could possibly make use of this easement, particularly since the entity that owns it, the easement interest and the property next to it, the old golf course, we don't want it. And so we are following the statute. Now, one thing the statute does anticipate is that when you're getting rid of an easement interest like this, that you allow adjacent property owners to know that you're doing it by way of a private conveyance. Well, here, the only private parties involved are us, the city of Milton, and the lot owners of those lots. So there's no one else to really let know that this is going on. So I am comfortable recommending to you that if you adopt the resolution that the city manager has placed in front of you, we otherwise have done what we need to do under Georgia law to get rid of or dispose of these easements. So here's how it would work. Once you adopt this resolution, it's going to authorize the mayor to sign a litany of quitclaim deeds. And those quitclaim deeds will be then executed by the mayor. They'll be recorded in the Fulton County Superior Court Clerk's office, and voila, these easement interests will be extinguished. We've not given up anything except this easement. We've not given up any real property, for instance. It's just this easement interest. So, and again, just for purposes of the graphic, again, this is a graphic that we have actually, paid a company to do and put these on here so you can see exactly what we're giving up. And this, in fact, will accompany the quitclaim deed itself because it provides a nice visual representation of what the city's giving up. Upon your adoption of this resolution, we'll execute the quitclaim deeds, record them, and then those easement interests will be extinguished. The city will no longer have any interest in those adjacent properties. Based upon the direction I've been given, it's my recommendation that the council adopt the resolution that the city manager handed out earlier, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
And just to clarify, this is, basically, this is property that these individual homeowners have always owned and purchased. They conveyed an easement when it was a golf course.
When it was a golf course.
But now it's a golf course. Really, it would be more of a liability for us as a city if we continue with those easements. So
that's correct.
We're basically just allowing the folks to have their property.
It adds confusion on title. Back. It's a cloud on their title. It's a use that's no longer even applicable. This easement was for a golf course use. Well, we're not using it for that. And so it's a win-win for us to get rid of these.
Any questions on this? Matt?
The only question I have is these aren't all the easements. We also have some easements, I think, that do have some golf cart path on it, right? And that's a separate issue.
That's a separate issue, and that's right. in the works, and we're still working through those issues. To me, this was the easier issue.
Right.
Rick, do you have any question?
Yes, I think Matt hit on the question that I was going to get at. So, Ken, will we have like cart paths or any type of quote-unquote improvements, which actually I think the homeowners want removed? That's not included in this. That's going to be handled on a separate item.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. The interest, just again, for clarification, is that middle hash marked area and the right fishhook looking area, not the left north and south rectangle.
All right. Any other questions, or I'll open up for a motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve agenda item number 18-183.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Kuntz for approval with a second from Councilmember Jameson. All in favor, please say aye.
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 That passes unanimously. Okay. We'll move on to reports. I'd just like to say, for those of you who attended our Memorial Day service, thought it was a great service, and was just proud to be there. So,
yeah.
And thanks to everybody. And I don't think I got a chance publicly at the service to thank our staff and for everything they did to put that together. So we appreciate that. As long as and also without saying all of our folks that paid the price that we were out there to honor. So anything anybody else on the council wants to report on?
Well, with that, I just want to thank the Milton's Memorial Markers Association and some of the volunteers and citizen residents that came out there and put those crosses in and took them out. That was had a lot of them there on Sunday doing that, so that was a good thing. So good community doing a lot of good things.
Okay. And I know there's we look back here, the new green area, there's a function that the property of the developer and building owners are putting on Saturday night to kind of open up the community green. And I think it's Saturday at 5 o'clock. So certainly everybody's invited to come to that. Anything else from council? Move on to staff reports.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I don't have my slides tonight, so I'm just going to go over the same information that I've been sharing on those. Our T-SPLOS program, we've now received 13 months of collections on that. Our cumulative revenues are averaging 86.5% of what we'd projected. So we're a little over $6.5 million on that program. Then the concepts we're working on right now, Hopewell at Hamby and Hopewell at Thompson. We've been holding some adjacent property owner meetings the past couple weeks to meet with the property owners that are right at those intersections. And then we're planning to go out to a community event later this month with the concepts for that. Then we'll go into a survey for input and do some HOA outreach for some of the neighborhoods around those intersections. The Northeast Crabapple project, we're transitioning into the right-of-way stage on that project with final plans and construction bid hopefully this September. So that's moving along quickly. Tonight we approved 2 contracts with CMES, or 1 contract for 2 different intersection projects. Got an upcoming pre-construction meeting with that contractor to determine the schedules of the phases of those projects. But they are the Morris Road at Webb Road roundabout, which we've estimated it'll be about a 3-month project once they get started. And then the Freemanville at Providence roundabout, which can be a 10 to 12-month project. So those are the updates I have for tonight. Do you have any other questions?
Any questions on that? Okay.
All right, thanks.
All right. Courtney?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Since we last all met in March and I presented, we have hired a part-time community builder to take Wayne Boston's spot, Taylor Bryan. I hope you've all met her by now. She comes to us from St. Petersburg, Florida, and she has a pretty strong background in community involvement. She was on the board of the Ovarian Cancer Institute in Atlanta. She continues to learn about Milton, meet people, and learn everything she needs to know about Better Together and heading up those volunteers in Milton. We hosted Earth Day in April. Since we changed that event, we continue to grow it. We added a couple more vendors. The Master Gardeners came this year. We added a food vendor. So that grows. We had about 400 people attend that. Also added music, which makes everything a little more exciting. We had the Fulton Golden Games opening ceremony at Bell Memorial. And then I'm sure Jim will talk about this, but we hosted a whole month of activities for them throughout Fulton County. Our biggest April event, of course, was Rock for Rescues. We hosted about 3,000 to 4,000 people at that, raised a little over $30,000. And netted around $12,000, which ended up being about $2,400 for each charity. Additionally, though, they got tons of exposure. They got extra volunteers. They got products donated. They got future involvement in other activities. And so they were all very, very happy with the way it turned out. We look forward to growing it next year. We had a couple of debrief meetings to see how to improve that and grow it. And we'll work on that for next year. Next year's date is April 27th. Go ahead and mark your calendars. After Rock for Rescues, we hosted Crabapple Crossing's 3rd grade class. Every 3rd grader at Crabapple Crossing descended on City Hall. We divided them into 3 groups. They took a tour of City Hall. They did a traffic engineering project with Sarah Leaders over here in Community Place. And then as their final, they had a mock city council meeting where they had a vote. So they sat in your chairs and pretended that they were the mayor and council, and they had a ball. Thank you if you came to that. And then we finished up with Kona Ice out in the parking lot, which was a pretty big hit.
Maybe we should do that after council meeting.
Right. We'll add it to it.
Margarita truck.
We also, as we rolled into May, that was in May, the first part of May, May 8th, we started our 2nd Citizens Government Academy class. They are on week 5, which is Public Works. So you're going to learn about that tomorrow night. Memorial Day, we hosted. Thank you for your comments on that. I thought it turned out really well. I was happy with the move back to Freedom Park, and I think a lot of other people were too. Coming up, we have Beach Bash at Bell with our A1A, the Jimmy Buffett Tribute Band, some local vendors, some food trucks, kids' activities at Bell, June 16th from 6 to 10 p.m. We're also partnering with CCA. We joined them to help grow their Independence Day parade, which will be June 30th, Saturday, June 30th. It's going to remain a walking parade and many of the things that they have planned out, it's planned so well, there's really not a whole lot we could do to improve upon it except make it bigger and to help them do that. And we're going to close down Broadwell Road so we can add more to it. And then our equestrian committee attended committee collaboration training on the 12th and continues to find ways to collaborate. They're attending other committees' meetings. And then looking forward, as we finish up the summer, we will start planning Crabapple Fest. And again, with Taylor, our new community builder, building more connections in Milton.
Good deal.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Do an economic development update to kind of continue on with what Courtney was saying with Beach Bash and Bell and the collaboration. I don't know if y'all knew that at the Beach Bash, our Milton Cultural Art Committee, they did a Milton's Got Talent and selected a handful of Milton residents who we were planning on doing our own separate event to showcase them, but instead we're going to partner with Courtney and the Beach Bash at Bell, and they'll be the opening act for the A1A. So not only does that save money for the art committee, but it gives those young people so much more exposure than we could have ever gotten at a small event. In the past month or so, we've had two pretty cool job announcements. Incom, they brought 157 jobs to Metro Atlanta, 12 of which were in Milton up at Deerfield. And those 12 jobs, the salary range is between $80,000 and $150,000. So that's really what we're looking to do in Milton. We also, a couple of y'all attended the Health Source Chiropractor grand opening, and they signed a 5-year lease, bringing 4 full-time jobs and 2 part-time jobs. And she actually has a 10-year, oh gracious, what's the word? Not lease, franchise agreement. So she has 10 years. So assuming she does fine, she'll extend that for the other 5 years at that location. We have our small business symposium coming up on June 28th. We hosted that last year. It had great reviews, so hopefully it'll be even bigger this year. We have Senator Brandon Beach as our keynote speaker at lunch. And then we have 21 people registered so far, and we've only been promoting it for about a month, and we still have another month to go. 21 people registered in 12 booths for the expo that evening. And then this Thursday night in Council Chambers, we're hosting the 2018 Leadership North Fulton graduation. So if any of y'all can attend, that'd be great. Oh, and then I just found out today that Exide Technologies, which is also over in Deerfield, they landed a $75 million project with the Navy to make them batteries. And that's a 5-year, $75 million situation, so that hopefully they'll be in that location for 5 more years. So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah. And if there's nothing else from staff or council, that'll conclude our meeting. Rick, Councilmember Morg, thank you for calling in on your vacation.
Thank you.
And do I have a motion that we adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Go for it.
Okay. I have a motion and a second that we adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
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 That's unanimous.